Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This time we're going to take a look at the Sony Playstation. We've already taken a look at the Sega Saturn and the N64, and what better place to start than Demo 1. Demo 1 was the CD that was included with the Sony Playstation, had a few demos and videos on it, and for most of us this was our first introduction to the new system. One of the demos that made an impression was the dinosaur demo, finally proper texture map graphics. A lot of us were coming from other systems like the Super Nintendo, the Commodore Amiga. I was coming to the system from the Amiga CD32, and I think I had an Atari Jaguar at the time. I don't think I had a PC yet at the time, so these graphics were really quite impressive. There was a limited bit of interaction with the demo as well, where you could pan the camera around and change the dinosaur's expression. But yeah, really impressive demo for the time. There was also the secondary tech demo, which was the Manta demo. It wasn't quite as impressive as the dinosaur one, but yeah, a nice little addition. It was perhaps though the demo of the first Wipeout game on the CD that was by far the most impressive thing on it. Racing games had kind of been super scalar games, or if they were 3D it was games like Virtua Racing and Stunt Race FX on the Super Nintendo. This was a gigantic step forward. Not to mention the sound as well. It was a CD based system, therefore you could have CD based sound. You didn't need to rely on sound chips or anything like that. Music could really be as complex as you wanted it to be. I really like the Sony Playstation, but I think a lot of us would probably struggle to go back to the real hardware these days. Back in the day we were probably using a 15-inch TV if we were lucky enough to have a TV in our bedroom, or maybe the family TV downstairs 28 inches. We didn't have a 50, 60-inch TV like we do these days, so playing it on old school original hardware really does look quite bad. And for that reason, this is a console that I would pretty much only emulate these days. You get so many more different options: wireless controllers, upscaling, texture filtering, support for widescreen resolutions. It just looks so much better, so I'm pretty much going to be emulating these games here. I love original hardware, I love original games, but times just do move on. And as you can see, the difference with emulation and upscaling is just huge. You just can't ignore it, and it's so hard to go back. But what else was on that CD? Well, there was a very low resolution demo of Ridge Racer, one of the early PlayStation games. A 3D fighter in the style of Virtua Fighter, Toshinden. I never liked this game, I always thought it was a bit rubbish. Impressive as the graphics were back then, but I didn't find it any fun to play. And the demo for Loaded, graphically quite impressive I suppose, but I didn't really get on with this one either. It was all about Wipeout. But Wipeout and Destruction Derby. This demo that only lasted a minute or so we thought was absolutely fantastic. We thought this was incredible. The damage of the cars and just driving around the ring and smashing into things. Playing it now, this just is so boring to me. But at the time you think these things are really great, but your opinion changes with age. But onto the hardware, and I think the design of the Sony Playstation is absolutely fantastic. Hasn't aged today. There's a few different versions of this first console, a few different ports at the back, different audio options, but this is the one I have. There was later a cost-reduced version of this console called the PS1, and it always amazes me when I bring this out of my collection how small it is. I mean, I always remember it being small, but this thing is tiny. Still a really cool design though, and you could get the flip-top LCD monitor that would sit on the top of this as well. But time to upset a few people. There are a few things about this console that I just don't like. I don't like the game boxes, these plastic cases, proprietary plastic cases that they're just rubbish. They just crack and just damage. They're awful. I don't know why they use these. Just use a normal CD case, that's the way to go. But my biggest dislike for the system is actually the controller. I've never liked this controller. I find it far too small. I don't like the spongy buttons. But the worst thing on it is the D-pad for fighting games. It's useless. After having played with the Sega Saturn, there's just no competition. And it probably was this D-pad that stopped me going with PS2, PS3. I could never get on with it. I think there was some sort of legal reason why they had to design the D-pad like this. I think it was some sort of Nintendo or maybe a Sega patent on it. But going back to those cases, a lot of the Japanese games did come in a standard CD case. Or the double dual CD case. Some of the games came in that. Early ones came in really tall boxes, some in cardboard boxes. But replacing these cases can really be a bit of a pain. You also got the memory cards with the system, and there were loads of sort of third-party ones of these, and I remember them being really unreliable. advertising things like 4 megabyte storage. Yeah, it might be 4 megabyte, but how reliable is it? Probably not very much, and there were lots and lots of dubious cards that had lots of damaged save games on them. But we're really interested in the games themselves, and one of the early ones was Ridge Racer, and this was like playing an arcade at home. There was a pool hall and snooker club fairly near us at the time, and the only game they had I think was Scud Racer. I used to really enjoy Scud Racer, and this kind of felt similar to it. A great game and the start of a great series. Mortal Kombat 3 and Mortal Kombat Trilogy were a bit of a double-edged sword on the PlayStation. The graphics were absolutely fantastic, awesome music, and really fun to play, but it was the loading times that just killed this for me. We've been used to playing this on the Super Nintendo. No loading times, and in a two-player game you'd be fighting against each other in seconds. Here you were waiting for loading screens, character selects. You got the graphics, you got the sound, but it just kind of killed the gameplay in a two-player mode for me. That's not to say it's a bad game, particularly in single player mode, but two players, meh. The loading just interrupted the game just far too much. Colin McRae Rally. Now here is a game that's really deserving of praise. Really did feel like a proper rally simulator, this one. It really captured the feeling of driving on loose surfaces and going through fords and the water would slow you down, drifting around corners. I don't think it's been bettered. Even some of the later Colin McRae games aren't as good as this one. And some of the crashes you can have in this game are absolutely fantastic. Some of the ones you want to cause yourself. You want to see how damaged you can get the car. This one's a certifiable classic. Okay, why am I even including this one? Well, I think we kind of forget how big a band the Spice Girls were back in the day. Well, probably shouldn't call them a band, but you know what I mean. Absolutely massive. And I know a bunch of younger girls back then would have been playing this game. I even just reading comments about it online. It's definitely got a bit of a following. Being able to play as your favourite character as you sing various songs. And it must have been successful, because whenever I go to car boot sales or thrift stores or what do you guys call them? Swap meets. There was a period of about 10 years where you could not visit one of these without finding this on PlayStation 1 or the film Spice World. I said that before I picked up the PS1 I had an Atari Jaguar, and one of my biggest gaming regrets is not picking up Alien vs Predator for that system. I have played it since, but you can never really imagine what it was like to play back at the time. But thankfully Alien Trilogy was released on the system, PlayStation and Sega Saturn. And I think this game's a great little Doom clone, really atmospheric, and the music in this game is absolutely perfect. Nice, quiet and subtle, and it really hits that much more when you get attacked with the facehugger. The PlayStation did get its own port of Doom though, and it's a pretty good one. My one has got a nice little code sheet in from the previous owner who's written all the level codes on them, so nice bit of gaming archaeology there. But this game was a bit different. It didn't have the music of the original PC game, it went for a bit of a darker tone. The music was replaced with atmospheric sounds, and some of the in-game sounds were much improved. Really like the sound of the shotgun in this game, much improved over the PC original. You can also have two players on this one if you own the PlayStation Link cable. But yeah, this is a great conversion of the PC original, and Doom 2's in there as well. I was never a big fan of 3D fighting games to start with. I always felt they felt a little bit slower than their 2D counterparts, but really enjoyed Soul Edge or Soul Blade. Really great game, this one. But why the two different names? Why Soul Edge and Soul Blade? Well, it was called Soul Blade in the UK because of this guy, Tim Langdell, and you could easily do an entire episode on this guy. He's basically one of the most famous copyright trolls ever. In short, he was releasing games back in the 1980s under his banner The Edge, and he'd pretty much set up litigation against anyone who used the word edge or edge games or edgy or anything like that. He even challenged EA Games when they released Mirror's Edge. He did lose that one, and I think Tim has now been consigned to the dustbin of history. But I'm getting sidetracked. This is a fantastic game. Disruptor is a game that I never actually owned back in the day. I'm including this just as a sort of reflection, looking back on how times change. There was a demo of this game released on, I think it was Official PlayStation magazine, which was the UK one. And me and my friend Mike both agreed, I can remember this distinctly, we both agreed that this game had the best graphics on the Sony Playstation. Now obviously we're looking at this through upscaling and filters and stuff like that, so I'm just going to dial it back to how it would have looked at the time, and yeah, this is it. This is what we were looking at. This was what I thought was the best graphics on the system. Crazy. Before I get onto my own personal top 10 games for the Sony PlayStation, we're just going to take a quick look at a few other games that were memorable to me. The first of those is D. Now this is a full motion video game, so it is a bit of an acquired taste, but there's something about this game. It's the atmosphere, the background sound, and the graphics. I know it's a video, it's not even the graphics, but I just love the graphical style of this game. Early CG graphics, it just fits so well. If you can put up with the slow movement speed, give this game a bit of leeway, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Available on Japanese import, which is significantly cheaper than the UK edition. Descent is a game that got released on a few different systems. It was definitely on the PlayStation, definitely on the PC, and on the N64 as well. Probably a few other systems. I remember playing the demo of this. I think it came on the cover of a magazine, and I really enjoyed it. And I went out and bought the game, and I don't know what it was, but something about the game was nowhere near as good as the demo, if that makes sense, and I sold it on soon after. And yeah, it was much the same story with Destruction Derby, or Derby, depending on where you're from. I said earlier that this came on the Demo 1 CD, and we really enjoyed it, and we went out and bought it, and we thought it was going to be more of the same, more smashes, more crashes, and it was just really sort of fairly boring racing, and we felt we'd been a bit misled, and the game went back the very same day. There's a really nice conversion of Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the Sony PlayStation, plays really well, loads quick enough, great CD music, yeah, a great two-player game. I remember being really amazed by the demo of Ace Combat. I think that was on PlayStation Magazine as well. I never actually ended up getting the game, but I did get Ace Combat 2, which you're looking at here. Really, really fun, great music and targeting things and flying really close to the ground and structures. Really, really cool. Just because this fantastic new console was so great at 3D didn't mean it couldn't do 2D games as well. And there were some great 2D games on the system. Super Buster Brothers or Super Pang is a fantastic collection for this system. It's not that cheap though, I think it goes for quite a decent amount of money. There's some fantastic CD music on this, and yeah, an update of a classic game. Now I'm no big fan of Formula 1, but I've got a few friends that are. I'm much more a rally fan myself, but I always remember my friends playing Formula 1, or I think maybe Formula 1 97 with the Murray Walker commentary track. I always remember it being quite extensive, but playing it again now, there doesn't seem to be that many voice lines, but I can see if you were a big fan of Formula 1 at the time, this must have seemed incredible. I've got to put this in here because it was an early PlayStation game, and a lot of people have got a lot of good memories of Tekken and Tekken 2. My friend Mike was a big fan of Tekken 2, but I never really got the fascination. I did think it looked very impressive, but Soul Edge, Soul Blade, that was the better game. And as we wait for news of Grand Theft Auto 6 releasing, we take a look back at GTA on the original PlayStation. This is where it started. And I thought this was absolutely fantastic back in the day, and my gaming habits haven't really changed. Didn't really do many missions in this, didn't really do many missions in Grand Theft Auto 5, I just like driving around and causing carnage. It's all about the bus, get into the bus and you can smash loads of things out the way. Yeah, it might look a bit primitive now, but this game played so well. Another couple of early games that spring to mind for me are Pandemonium, which was a kind of 2.5D platform game. Looked cool but wasn't really that much fun to play. Same with Medieval as well, and I know people like Spyro the Dragon, that's a game that never really grabbed me. But the PlayStation was certainly a console that had games for everyone of every age. Micro Machines V3 was fun like most of the other Micro Machines games are, but I got a vague memory that I'll have to have a quick Google. I think in this version there was a cheat code where you could enter a code and you could turn yourself into any object in the game, any of parts of the scenery. I remember racing my friend Paul around the track, and we were cat baskets going around the track, and yeah, just absurd and fun. I know Final Fantasy VIII does get a bit of a hard time from some people, but I really enjoyed this game. Never quite finished it. But it was games like this that kind of made us realise that the N64 had no future. cartridge sizes of 64 megabytes compared to as many CDs as you want on the Sony Playstation with as much full motion video as you like. There was no competition. And I'm certainly not saying that the N64 didn't have some fantastic and great games, but when it came down to complexity, the PlayStation won every time. I always felt the PlayStation did really well with racing games, compared to the N64 and Sega Saturn, where racing games were either really blurry or really blocky and messy. The PlayStation always seemed nice and crisp. And Gran Turismo 2 had a fantastic fleet of cars in it, definitely a memorable game, this one. But I think it's time to move on and look at my top 10 games for this system. You may not agree with them, but these are mine. I did pick up Ridge Racer when I finally got a PlayStation for myself, but it was the later game, Rage Racer, that was my most favourite game in the series. It's got some really weird car handling on this game, as anyone who's ever played this game will know, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be going around corners perfectly. And it's just got such an arcade feel to it, this game, just like that Scud Race arcade game that I mentioned earlier. It's just like that. Great audio and great music in this game, and it's just great just to shave seconds off your lap each time. Anyone who's got a PlayStation 1 should have this game. Resident Evil 2. Now in some ways this even surpasses the first game for me. Came on, I think, 2 CDs, and you had the option of playing it with the Leon scenario and the Claire scenario. Different stories, but the same world. It was kind of more of the same, but I think for me this is a bit of a memory because this is the first game I think I played on a chipped PlayStation. My friend Paul, he'd got a PlayStation chipped from this guy from work, and he had a load of copy CDs. And if you remember back then, copying CDs was a bit of a dark art. It may work, it may not, but Resident Evil 2 definitely came on that stack of copied games, and yeah, what an experience. Just blew us away the first time we saw this game. Pick up item to solve puzzle, but it's just done so well. And picking up the shotgun parts in this game to upgrade your shotgun, and it just made that new sound when you were taking down zombies. Absolutely beautiful. The first Gran Turismo game, and I do put this over the second game, maybe because it was the impact it made. Again, a game that came on PlayStation Magazine, playing the demo and thought, yeah, this is a really cool racing game, really fun. But it was the replays, when it showed your car from different angles, my jaw dropped to the floor seeing those different camera angles, the way the cars were lit, the way it followed the cars around the track. That was sorcery. We hadn't seen that before on a console. But it was a great racer as well, really fun to play, loads of different tracks, getting your licenses, getting the high speed on the bowl, and what a fantastic musical soundtrack from bands as well. Ash Lose Control going around that top speed ring. Absolutely brilliant. Always chose the Mitsubishi 3000 GT or GTO in this game, but everyone's going to have their favourite. Exhumed or Power Slave was a game that I took a look at in my Sega Saturn overview, and I think I had that in my top 10 for that system as well, and yeah, it's in my top 10 for this system also. It has a few less graphical effects than the Sega Saturn version and a few little less features. Some of the geometry is not quite as complex, but the graphics are a bit sharper, so I find it hard to decide which version is best, but they're both really fantastic. It's basically Doom, but pick up keys to open doors and abilities to get to different areas of different levels, and a level might have multiple exits that take you to other levels, and it lets you go back and re-experience the levels with the new abilities, get to new locations, pick up new objects. There is a remaster of this game, which is what you're looking at now, and this is the version I suggest you pick up. Get this on Xbox, PlayStation or PC. Coming back to it after all these years, I enjoyed it every little bit as much as I did back then. And of course, after seeing that demo of Wipeout on the Demo 1 CD, of course it's going to be in my top 10. What a massive leap forward in graphical quality, seeing this after Super Nintendo, Mega Drive and Commodore Amiga. We haven't seen anything like it since. Consoles have kind of hit a brick wall. Yeah, there's Xbox 360 to Xbox One. Wasn't really that big a difference, really, was it? Gaming has kind of not really progressed that much further. Graphics a little bit, but very rarely do you see a step in gaming as big as this. And not only did it look really good and play really well, it had a fantastic soundtrack as well. And back in the day, if you had a decent hi-fi in your bedroom, you had to have this machine hooked up to it. And it did take quite a lot of skill to get good at this game. You couldn't just play your first game and do really good at it. It really took a little bit of time to get used to the air brakes and realise how to sort of brake around corners and handle the different ships. An absolute masterpiece. Yep, of course you've got to have Tomb Raider on the list, and this was a game that we picked up on the Sega Saturn. It was available on the Sega Saturn first. I think we picked it up on launch day. But it was after seeing it on the Sony Playstation that it was clear how far ahead the PlayStation version was. The graphics seemed a lot sharper, and the frame rate was much higher on the Sony Playstation. Well, we say a lot higher. We were probably talking 20 and 30 frames per second back then, rather than 60 plus that we are satisfied with these days. But a fantastic 3D third-person adventure game. Definitely did put the female protagonist on the map of gamers, and probably encouraged a lot of female gamers to pick up the new system as well. The Sony PlayStation definitely had a feeling of being a bit more of an adult system than older systems. The Super Nintendo, for example, always felt a little bit kind of for the younger audience. Sony PlayStation definitely felt like something more aimed at adult gamers. Lara Croft went on to have loads of different games in the franchise, but the original is the best. I know I said that I think the second game has got a few things over the first game, but the first Resident Evil, what an absolute classic. I remember one of my friends in 6th form talking about this new game, Resident Evil. I was just thinking, what even is this game about? What a name. But my brother picked this up on the Sega Saturn, and that's the system I originally finished it on. And I did pick it up for the PlayStation after, played it all the way through, and I also purchased the Resident Evil Director's Cut, and you can also buy this as the Biohazard Director's Cut, the Japanese version. It's a little bit cheaper. And when it comes to Resident Evil, I think you kind of get two groups of people. You get the group of people that prefer maybe the original 3 games, and then you get other players who prefer the more modern games, Resident Evil 4 onwards. But for me, the first 3 games are the ones that I hold dearest. I guess it made such an impact after watching zombie films, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and kind of finally being able to play it. The excellent graphics, I know it was kind of static backgrounds and stuff, but looked really cool back in the day. The full motion video of some of the zombie attacks, different weapons, planning your routes throughout the mansion so you don't have to go through corridors where you've left zombies alive. The later games in the series might look a little bit more fancy, but I've got so much nostalgia for the first game. And it was best played on the Sony PlayStation. Number 3 in Die Hard Trilogy, and yeah, it is one game. You can't buy the games on the trilogy separately, so yep, it's one game, and a fantastic triple pack this one. Well, the first 2 games, the third game with the driving's kind of a bit rubbish. I never really liked that one, but the first 2 games, they played really well, and what fantastic value for money as well. Really enjoyed the voice lines in this game. Get the hell out of here and die, Yankee. Want to stay alive? Stay with me. Working your way up to the top floors in the high-rise, and did anyone else really enjoy shooting out the windows? I couldn't leave a level in this game until I'd shot out all the windows in the office complex. I don't know why, it just made such a lovely tinkly sound. The second installment was a fantastic light gun game. 2 players at the same time as well, and I think I remember playing this with light gun, and yeah, that just transformed the game. Just really great music, and probably the most impressive light gun game I'd played at that time. There were a bunch of secrets and stuff to find, but I think it was the destructible scenery in this game. You could just, if you could see it, you could pretty much shoot it and destroy it. Yeah, really impressive. How much of the scenery you could destroy. This 3-pack of games is an easy recommendation to anyone looking into the PlayStation. Wipeout 2097 or Wipeout XL, it's my most favourite racing game of all time, and even when I was grabbing footage for this video, I played it all the way through. Vector class, Rapier class, Phantom class, got the Piranha ship, the fastest ship in the game. In my opinion, yeah, this is the best and greatest racing game ever made. I don't think it will ever be perfected, at least in my eyes. The small issues on the first game where you would clip the wall and it would sort of slow you down have all been ironed out in this game. You can kind of scrape along the edges of tracks and it's just faultless. It truly is a faultless racing game, this one. I honestly can't think of a single thing I would change about this game. Maybe just to have more of it. That is literally the only change I would make. It's absolute racing perfection. It's never been bettered. I don't think it ever will. And probably entirely predictably, Final Fantasy VII is at number 1. Now that won't come as a surprise to anyone who likes the Sony PlayStation, anyone who's seen Sony PlayStation top 10s, or anyone who's heard about Final Fantasy VII. It's that big a milestone in gaming. I'd played some RPGs on the Super Nintendo, Link to the Past and Secret of Mana, but this was a massive step up. And I think for a lot of us, this game hit at just the right time, just at the kind of cusp of the internet, if you like, just as it started. And there were so many hidden different things in this game, hidden features, hidden characters, hidden weapons, hidden magics, hidden summons, chocobos and things like that. There was just so much to do. Even when you finished the game, you probably weren't anywhere near being truly finished. And I remember looking on the internet when it was just text-based things, text-based guides of this game, telling you where to find secret stuff and cool little tricks you could do. These days you would just check YouTube, but it was a different time back then, and the complexity of this game, this is the game that killed the N64. There was just no competition. You were never ever going to get this game on Nintendo 64. And I've been through this game countless times on PC, on Nintendo Switch, on PlayStation. And you know it's a successful game that loads of people love because they've just remade it. So yeah, there's that. And not to mention the super bosses in the game as well. Emerald Weapon, Ruby Weapon. Getting the limit breaks for all the characters and the hidden characters. A proper orchestral soundtrack, full motion video. The loss of a major character in the game that came as a massive shock to us all. Just so much to do in this game, and yeah, just really showed off what a new next generation system could do. And all that makes it an easy pick for place number 1. Well, that was my look back on the Sony PlayStation. Just a few memories of games I remember playing at the time, and the top 10 games that mean the most to me. There's going to be a few games that you think should be on the list, but again, it's games that I haven't played. If it's a game that I haven't played back in the day, I haven't played it and it won't be in my top 10. I know some people will think, where's Rayman? Where's Revolt? Siphon Filter? Tenchu? But I would say I picked up the Sony PlayStation a little bit later, I think at least a year or two after release. And after that I kind of moved on to the PC. I still was a fan of consoles, but yeah, definitely moved on to PCs after that. But this generation of consoles was kind of the first where 3D gaming became a reality. Frame rates could finally be fluid enough. We could have Doom on a home system, not on a PC that cost several £1000s. And out of the 3 consoles then, the Sega Saturn, the N64 and the Sony PlayStation, it pretty much was the PlayStation that was the console that could do 3D. Certainly 3D with a decent frame rate and sharp visuals. But as with all those systems, again I would still turn to emulation. It's that awkward point between 2D and 3D. Not quite HDMI, not quite high resolution, so emulation is your best bet for these systems. But yeah, absolutely love the Sony PlayStation, an absolute classic. I don't like that D-pad, but other than that, an absolutely fantastic system. Let me know what the most favourite games you've played are, and I'll catch you guys next time.